Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm back with part 3 of What If Naruto Was Shadow the Hedgehog. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels if you're new. Yes, that's right, I need 3 more channels which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. Links will be down in the description for Anime King 2, Anime King 3, and Anime Symbol. So go ahead and obliterate that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And don't forget to turn on the bell notification to see when I post, because I do post a hell of a lot. So without further ado or wasting any more time, how about we jump right into this? Let's begin now guys. So the last part that we left off, Mito saw her life flashed in front of her eyes as she believed that was it for her. It was over. She wouldn't survive. Thus she believed. However, the blade was stopped inches away from her face. She was frightened by that. As Naruto had stopped the blade, Kakashi, just arriving on the scene, was happy to see that she was okay, as he knew that he wouldn't be able to even explain to her parents on what happened. However, Naruto had put a stop to the blade, not choosing to end her life. She was confused, not understanding. He was supposed to be the enemy, but as she gazed at him, she saw something. A strange look, a gaze. He seemed so sad, so immensely sad. Zabuza and Haku try to join in with Kakashi because Naruto was going to take the bridge builder down. As Gato arrived on the bridge, telling Shadow to kill them all, and that is exactly what Naruto was going to do. However, seeing the opportunity and now knowing that he was going to be betrayed, Zabuza gave the orders. Haku went through the mirror. Naruto was more than fast enough to stop Haku from ending Gato, but he did not. As he stood there watching them, there was no longer a reason to kill the man after all. He was now dead, and the mission was null and void. So Naruto proceeded to leave the area. However, he did not leave the land of Wave. Some time later, Mito found him. He was about to leave, but she said something. She was doing something very risky here, going out to meet someone that almost killed her, but at the same time he did not, and he could have. And she wanted to know. She felt like she knew him, like they've met before, but he told her that they've never met, and she would not dare to start to understand the kind of person that he was. Is he a reminder so much of her mom? But his eyes, there was so much sadness and sorrow inside of them. As Naruto proceeded to leave, one of his biggest flaws was his emotional state that tend to sway his actions most of the time. In this situation, it was, well, not stopping Haku from ending Gato when he could have easily done that. So with that, Naruto proceeded to make another move. As he got the information, said information led him towards a massive facility on the ocean, an island. Naruto wiped out everyone in his path, arriving as he found none other than a doctor who worked with Orochimaru back at the village. Mito knew that her parents would chastise her for, well, doing something so stupid as going to speak with the enemy. But she just had a feeling. But she did speak about Shadow though. Shadow was mostly a myth to most people because he's rarely ever seen. A person that always get the job done no matter what. This was the first time that he ever failed. But he didn't exactly fail the client. Well, they died, so yes. That wasn't really his concern. Other than that, as Mito said something about him when speaking to Kushina, the plate clattered down to the ground, as Mito was confused as everyone was, moving around so frantically. When her parents finally settled down with her to speak with her, they told her that they had a child before her. Now that caught her completely off guard. She wasn't their firstborn. She was supposed to have an older brother that was kidnapped from the village right after Kushina gave birth. A child that was never found. Mito was shocked to think that it could be him. He could be her brother. It frightened her greatly to hear that. Meanwhile that was going on, Gurren arrived. Gurren was a special person for Orochimaru, as Gurren was on the island to gather information to bring back. Her being someone important enough to handle said information, as Orochimaru did not trust the lower subordinates. So yes, she went. However, when she came face to face with Shadow, as she realized who he was, even Orochimaru did not want to face him for a reason she did not know. She had to fight. Gurren gave everything she had, but when she did use her ultimate power to encapsulate him inside of a massive crystal dome, he removed the limiters on his wrists, the rings that restrict his power, and thus the match was easily over. When she woke up, she was in an unfamiliar place, as she was greeted by Shadow at the door. He told her that she was going to tell him everything about Orochimaru, and if she does not, the words alone was enough to send the fear of coming into her heart, as Naruto was not here to play around. So yeah guys, basically let's split it off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what do you say we jump right into this brand new episode? Let's begin now guys. He was hunted by some of the best, starting from the entirety of Konoha, going to the Akatsuki, Kumo, several other villages, and one Shadow. Orochimaru had played it careful and safe, knowing that there were countless out there that wished to take his life. However, he was very careful not to allow any of them to do so. And through that carefulness, he had survived this long, searching for his ultimate goal, to gain what he truly deserved, to become truly immortal, to defy the aspects of nature, to break boundaries, to shatter the normal law of comprehension and understanding. So that is why, when Gurren did not return after her scheduled time, he knew that she was either captured or dead. However, there was one thing that he was sure about. She would give no information. He personally made sure that every single one of his subordinates not only fear him, but they understand the repercussions of betraying him. He made sure to push their loyalty to the absolute limit, and Gurren was one of his best. She would rather slit her own throat than give up any information on him. And as he stated, Gurren was one of his best. She knew a lot. And if she had give up information, this place would be storming right now, but not just this one, but several of his other bases would be under attack right now. His people would be fending off against a much greater force. Despite that, though, he had his people on high alert just in case. Orochimaru was plotting something very big. He was doing something extremely careful, and he had to ensure that no one got in his way. Because after all these years, he was going to go through with his plan of bringing Konoha down. His vengeance would finally be satisfied, and no one, not even Minato Namikaze, would be able to stop him. Someone enter. As Orochimaru took the letter away from the individual, said letter was a detailed description of everything. Orochimaru had his people head towards the island. However, the island was empty, but as stated before, he wasn't an idiot. Those people checked into an interception that checked into another one that checked into 15 others to ensure that if they were indeed followed, well, their tail would be caught a long time ago. This was passed through so many hands to ensure that no one would ever find where he was. And from what he was seeing, the island was empty. The Sannin was furious because he was working on something very powerful with that scientist, a beast that would be able to control the seas. The thought crossed his mind that the man had betrayed him. However, to take down Gurren, that was a spectacle on its own. Gurren was no average fighter. She was no average individual. And with her crystal release, she was a dangerous combatant. So yes. However, the evidence that was found there shows there was a struggle. Gurren had been fighting, and from what the Sannin was reading, whatever she was fighting was able to produce a large volley of water. So that means he was betrayed, and Gurren was probably destroyed by the sea beast that they were trying to create. Orochimaru's rage was extremely high right now because not only had he wasted time, money, efforts into controlling the sea, and now one of his strongest was taken away just like that. The Sannin was furious as he was barely contained in his anger. However, the mere aura that generated from him was rather telling of his rage that he was currently feeling right now. The Sannin would ensure that Amayado pay for his crimes. He will be found. Meanwhile, that was going on. A terrifying scream was torn through the entire place. Horrifying, bone-chilling. Gurren was the one exhibiting that screaming, laying wherever she was, as she was not able to move from the same location that she woke up in. Once again, a hand placed on her chest. Gurren screamed so violently, the pain coursed through her. All she did was wanted it to end. She needed it to end. Days, weeks, months, she did not know. She lost track of time. The semblance of time was simply gone. The only thing she knew was pain. Continuous pain. You had people that were loyal. You had people that were willing to die for what they believed in. However, majority of that pale in comparison when it comes to actual pain. And we're not talking about a simple burn, a simple stab, a simple scrape. It was pain that made you feel like you want to rip your own heart out, tear your eye sockets out, rip your face apart. That kind of pain. And right now, Gurren has been suffering that pain for time that she did not even know. It was endless. She was loyal to the letter, willing to give whatever it takes. However, inside, she was screaming, she was crying, begging for relief. Once again it stopped. The brief moments and then it happened once again. No question. He didn't ask a single thing. It started with him asking first, and that was the only time that he ever asked. After that, the pain began, and it never stopped. The brief seconds allowing her to catch her breath. Perhaps that was even worse because she knew what would follow as she screamed. The scream ripping through the entire place. Naruto was the one that was inflicting all that suffering on her. His eyes cold and empty. He's long since lost that feeling for those who stood in his way, especially those that are anywhere related to the Sannin in any matter. Empathy, sympathy, he lost all of those feelings as he inflicted unimaginable pain on Guren by releasing the chaotic energy. It was ripping through her. He knew not to use enough to end her life, but he kept on pushing her to the brink every single time. Her body rests and recovered faster than most. She was special in that way, perhaps courtesy of her bloodline making her insides rather tougher, which made it even worse. He didn't ask anymore, he simply gave her enough to make her understood what would happen. And after enough agonizing suffering, he came to a stop. Guren was motionless. Tears. Her tears had long since evaporated. Her mouth was dry, her throat was empty. As she lay there motionless, there was nothing that she knew but pain for the longest time now. So when he finally spoke once again, asking for information on the Sannin, she tried her hardest to be quiet. However, her mind simply separated from her body, and her body spoke on its own, relinquished every information that she had. When she started, she did not stop until she told him every single thing. The location of the bases, everything that he wanted to know. He had truly broken her. Normal torturing was one thing, but the power that Naruto was using was chaotic energy. The mere notion was chaotic, and it was constantly pumping through her. Hitting someone from a far distance with his chaotic blast, injure them, knock them down. Depends on how much force he used, but a constant stream was enough to make someone lose their mind over and over again if it was given on a continuous doses. So as much as she tried, she could not stop herself. By the time she realized her mistake, she begged for death. As much as she tried to hold out, Orochimaru would not take to what she has given out lightly. She would suffer for her mistake. Her own loss made her feel worthless, because that is how Orochimaru conditioned them to be. If he was disappointed in them, if their action displeased him, they were supposed to feel bad about themselves. In her final moments, the only one that she truly thought about though was a young boy. Someone that she should have taken care of even more. After all, she was the one that took him from his parents. Yukimaru, she said to herself. However, there was no sympathy, no empathy from him. As Naruto placed his hand on her head, and this time, he relinquished all that force into her brain. She was dead in a couple of seconds. Too much energy frying every single thing. Her mind couldn't handle it, her heart couldn't handle the strain as it proceeded to shut down. Her final moments weren't as bad as everything else. However, her last word was spoken about that young boy's name, Yukimaru. As Naruto looked down towards her, his face devoid of all emotion. Majority of that was ripped out of him a long time ago. And he wasn't talking about with Maria after losing her. Orochimaru had inflicted suffering and pain on him and those other children. The sheer fact that he was one of the few to survive, to go to the end, to withstand the numerous torturing sessions of experiments. A lot of that had been burned out of him a very long time ago. However, he was successful in gathering more information. However, Naruto wasn't an idiot, far from it. The years had taught him to be rather smart. Going after Orochimaru right now would allow the man to escape and go underground, further away from him. If he attacked one of Orochimaru's bases, he would know that his subordinate being captured was because of this, and that she had released information. Therefore, he would leave every one of the bases that he was currently occupying right now and go deeper underground. So Naruto allowed time to pass, as he did not make a single move towards the man. This time he would not allow him to escape. This time he would catch him and he would make him suffer. So yes, he waited. As much as it pained him to do so, he waited and waited and waited. Time skip. At Konoha, so far there has been nothing. Even before this, Shadow was never seen by any Konoha ninja. So the fact that he was not seen again was not an indication that he was dead or anything. Perhaps they should take a keen focus at his name even more. He was in the shadows. His vast array of abilities, and from what Kakashi said, his speed that was super unnatural, allows him to keep a discreet glimpse out of sight, so most people wouldn't be able to keep track of him. So despite the search that was going on, which was not publicized, they have found absolutely nothing. Mito found herself within the training field as they were doing team drills trainings. She was growing more and more concerned about him, despite never knowing that he was her brother, as she had for long ago the thought that he was someone else. It was a sheer connection that she had when she first laid eyes on him. However, at night she stayed up, thinking about that look that she saw in his eyes. She did not tell her parents about that, as she did not know why. She should have, but she did not. She saw the emptiness, the loss. She knew that he's been through a lot. As a part of her wonder that forcing him back into something that he was never a part of, if that was a good idea, as they needed to take it slow. However, her parents were justified in their actions. He was taken right as he was brought into this world by someone. They had no idea who was behind it. He was taken. They didn't get to even fully name him. They didn't get to raise him. He wasn't a part of the family for more than a couple of minutes. So she could understand their pain, but she wished that she could do something else. Hey, her attention was drawn by Sasuke, who was unaware of what was going on. The information about what was going on was kept very secretive, as it was not a public news, so the other two did not know. Perhaps that was for the best at the moment, that it was only a family thing, until they found him. Yes, perhaps that was for the best. Time skip. A group of sound ninjas found themselves within the land of sound, as strange as that sound. However, most of the time, majority of them were not here. All over the place, moving to Orochimaru whims. The land of sound was not a village. It was an underground systems of tunnels and locations brought together. It wasn't a single village that was profitable. It was close by to the land of rice fields, which was currently providing them with assistance, courtesy of the leader there, who had a deal with the Chunin for getting rid of certain problems that would plague him, and Orochimaru get to use resources from the man, so it benefit both of them. Orochimaru was barely ever here, having so much bases across the entire elemental nation. So yes, three of them resided within a bar as they were talking amongst one another. All of the people that were in here were a part of what was going on, yet their words were not spoken out loud. They seated within a corner, three of them male. They were simply speaking about what is to come, when someone came in, drawing the attention of all three. As they were supposed to follow, they quickly stepped in line, as it was their superior. Making their way, they went through a whole lot of system tunnels underground, which carried them to a large open area. Arriving there, they never really had face-to-face with a boss. That wasn't in the cards for them. They were just low-level grunts. All of them was required to put on their uniform in here. Despite not being here, Orochimaru wanted everything strict and perfect, and no one was to step out of line. Another intimidation tactic that he used, that even when they were not in his presence, they understood the severity of what they needed to do. Their uniform was grey and black, and majority of their face was covered. The only thing that was not covered was their eyes. Listen up. The one that was in charge of this militia said, gazing down towards them from a higher platform, as there was quite a few of them here. It's time that we all stepped up. Orochimaru-sama is planning an attack on the Hidden Leaf village. Many was shocked to hear that. In the last phase of the Chunin exams, it is our mission to slaughter as much Konoha ninja as we possibly can. And also keep in mind that we are being helped by the Hidden Sand village. He started to give out information and what they needed to do. They need those that would be specialized in carrying Lord Orochimaru's summoning ceiling and activating it within the radius of the walls, as he started to hand out missions for those that were better suited for these different departments. Orochimaru didn't have time to oversee them all, so you had people that were in charge of those that were in charge of those that were, well, the one that was here. And he was handing out mission detail to all of them. After around 30 minutes of them understanding where they need to be, but this was just the first phase, they were all dismissed. Walking away was alone, Sound Shinobi, as he wasn't with the others. Hey, someone called out to him. We should regroup with the other group to talk with the other one in the south about a planned coordinating attack. As before he turned his gaze to meet the man though, his dark eyes flashed red before they returned back to dark. As he made his way, time skip, a lot took place. Jiraiya had returned back to the village after unsuccessfully finding Shadow. There was nothing. No one could reach him. The Chunin even put out the word that he was looking for his assistance. Jiraiya knew that he usually get a screening process to see if he would take this mission, but the broker that was supposed to even speak with Shadow said that he couldn't contact him. His usual way of doing so, something that he could not give Jiraiya, was offline. He couldn't contact him in any single way. The Chunin feared the worst. He returned back to the village with the sad news. Kushina was angry that they could be so close and yet so far at the same time. However, Jiraiya decided to stick around for the exams. Mito had passed the first and second phase already. The first phase was a written test, the second was 2 phases in one. They went through the forest of death and then they fought. She annihilated her opponent, which was a sound Kunoichi, known as Kin. With that said and done, she and Sasuke move on to the other round. Unfortunately, Sakura did not make it through the preliminaries. So yes, here they were, as they had a month to train and get stronger. She was a very self-reliant individual, as she was trying to strive and get stronger on her own most times. She was willing to train for the month by herself, as she wanted to work on a few things that she was lacking in. There was many things that she had to do, being the son of the most powerful man in the village. People expected high expectations from her. As much as she tried, she was still within her father's light. People always saw her as the daughter of the Hokage, or the Yellow Flash daughter, never by her own name. But there were few that did see her as she was. However, she needed help every now and again. Given the situations that her parents is currently facing right now, she didn't want to be annoying or anything, as there was a lot going on. However, Jiraiya was back, and he would be staying for a while, as he had her sign the Toad Summoning contract, something that she didn't have before. She knew that Sasuke was going through something similar as well. His father was really standoffish. His brother was nice, incredibly so, but his father was, well, he was not really a person that would give out compliments or be nice overly like that. He was stern and serious, and there was a lot expected from Sasuke. He had to fill the shoes of his older brother. After all, they hail Itachi as him, a prodigy amongst prodigy, a very special individual, and you had more stronger members. But still, Itachi was one of the best. So yes, Sasuke had a lot to live up to. It was something that constantly pushed him, a strive that he needed to surpass. She saw the way his father acted around certain things, so she understood why Sasuke was so in need to, well, make him proud of him. And she was trying to leave her father's shadow. So yes, they were all striving for something. As she proceeded to train, along with Jiraiya for the month, learning many things. Her opponent was no pushover after all. He was Neji Hyuga. They hail him as the prodigy of the clan. She met him once or twice before. Hinata was his cousin, and Hinata was a good friend of hers. Neji wasn't like the other Hyugas. He wasn't standoffish or cold. She supposed that him and Hinata and Hinata's little sister was special out of the others, that made them nicer. Granted, she didn't have much in contact with Neji, but the 2 times or 3 that she met him, he wasn't that bad. When the time finally came around, the place was packed. She's never seen so much people in one place before. They were all over the place, here to watch her participate. As she looked around feeling a bit anxious. Despite what was going on, her mother was still very supportive, as she was there, a big smile on her face to watch her little girl on Kushina's end. Kushina has been trying and failing to see Shadow return to the village. They never got the chance to name him. Every time she thought about that, it made her sad. But she knew that despite what was going on, she had to be here for her baby girl. She had to do that for her. She understood what it felt like to be alone, and she could not be neglectful to any of her children. But the mere thought that he had to grow up out there on his own and become a mercenary, a target killer. Granted, they were ninjas, but still. She hated the fact that he had to live all these years alone, never knowing his family. That made her sad. However, she focused on the match that was currently taking place, As she was not alone, there were several others there, Mito friends as well, that did not make it to this round, as they were there to watch. However, watching within the stands, there was a lot of people that came from the outside. Yes, a lot of people that came from the outside. Most of them wearing different kind of clothing. An exam like this was not something that would be publicized to attack. Not to mention within the Hokage's booth was yes the man himself, Minato Namikaze. The Kazekage was nearby as well. As they were having a conversation, a lot was taking place, so yes, that was going on. However, this particular man that stood within the crowd had majority of his features covered. A hood, a certain wrapping of a yukata that was wrapped around him, and he was not alone. There were 3 others by his side as they watched. The exam went on down there. Mito was stellar in her performance as she went up against Neji. She hailed from a very powerful family, but Neji has been pushing himself and training hard for most of his life. His father stood in the crowd, watching him. The man was immensely proud as he showed the rotation and the 64 palms. These were things that were not necessarily given on to the lesser branch as they saw it, as they were part of the, well, branch house, not the main house. But Neji defied all expectations and performed them. They were not taught to him. He saw, he learned, he understood. The man was immensely proud. Hayashi gazed over towards his brother, seeing that look on his face. His own daughter did not make it through the preliminaries. She failed, something that angered him about her loss. He tried to get the best for them, but Hinata was different. Neji was strong, and he was a branch member, but Hinata was simply too restricted by her emotions, which made her weak. To many, Hayashi was a monster, doing things that would be seen as acts of a bad father, but deep within his heart, everything was simply wrapping around him. It was a way that he had to be. It was a way that he needed to be to ensure that the elders and his people are satisfied that he kept them all together. But in doing so, he was being seen as a bad father. In the end though, Mito won, taking Neji down. As the people there were happy to see, there were many people applauding and cheering for her. Kushina was one of the many loud ones, proud of her baby girl. As the other matches took place, until Sasuke's name was called, his opponent was probably the most deadliest, the Sanjin Juliki. Minato was watching that boy very carefully as the battle began. Sasuke showed the extent of his training. Within the crowd was his father and his mother. Itachi Uchiha was not within said crowd, but he was observing. Oh yes, he was, with a smile on his face. However, Sasuke injured Gaara badly. The boy released a horrendous scream, which followed by an explosion within the box. Minato immediately getting to his feet. The Kazekage rising as well. Minato watching the man very carefully. The man launching something towards him, but Minato guard stepped in and blocked it. Only for someone to appear behind Minato, but his superior speed allowing the jump towards the next empty building. That was where the Kazekage jumped out as well, as all chaos started to break loose around the village. The sound ninjas quickly moved in and created a massive barrier, trapping the two on the inside. Orochimaru proceeded to rip off the fake skin, a smile on his face. Orochimaru, Minato said, looking rather surprised that the man would ever make a move like this. He looked around at all the destruction taking place. I wouldn't flash out of here if I were you. After all, we wouldn't want me to set them loose on Konoha, now would we? He summoned, by slapping his hand together, 3 coffins. Minato immediately knew what they were. As a third one was rising, he dashed, throwing weapons to take it down. However, the jutsu would have already failed. Orochimaru hissed at that, but it doesn't matter. The other 2 open up to reveal the first and second. Minato was furious. You would really go this far? Disturbing the dead, using them for your own slave. Orochimaru chuckled at the man. You have no understanding of how far I would go. I made a promise a long time ago, and I'm here to fulfill that promise by bringing Konoha down, he said, a smile gracefully on his lips. A long time ago you were able to flee the village by sheer coincidence, but this time, I'll put an end to you once and for all. You made a big mistake in coming here, because this is where you die, Minato said, as the man tear off the hat, throwing the robe aside, showing his fighting uniform underneath. It was just his Jonin clothing, with his vest on as well. As Orochimaru activated the 2, their emotions simply drained away. He smiled as he told them to attack, as he rushed in to do so, Minato dashing forward as well. Meanwhile, the 3 ninjas, including that special one, tear off their disguise, revealing themselves to be none other than sound ninjas. The others start to make it over the wall. The sand ninjas try to stop the Konoha ninjas by fending them off, taking them down. They needed Gaara to transform. The sand ninjas were not fighting as the sound ninjas within the village parameters. The sound ninjas were being few and moved out. However, their forces were trying to take down Konoha Jonins. Kakashi Hatake, Might Guy, Kurenai Yuai. They started to split up, heading towards the heart of the village. As Gaara was supposed to transform and destroy this place, killing the Jonins here, weakening Konoha forces, but something was wrong. Injured and depleted from his battle with Sasuke, as they made their way out into the forest, allowing Gaara the necessary time so that he could do what he needed to do, as Baki told him to go. However, Sasuke chased after them. Mito, seeing that, being able to break the genjutsu, something her mother had taught her about a lot. Given the fact that she possessed a lot of chakra, it was something that she needed to learn at an early age. She got to her feet as she looked around. Watching everything taking place, she had to make a move, until she turned her gaze to see Sakura, as someone stood behind the girl. A sound shinobi that revealed himself, a blade in his hand. Mito shouted out the girl's name, as Sakura turned. Was this it? Was it over, she thought? Only for a violent dose of red lightning to slam within the sound shinobi's chest, sending him through the wall. Sakura was shocked and grateful as she turned to see the one that did it was a sound shinobi as well, his hand still outstretched. Naruto stood there, within the disguise of being one of them. He was wearing the clothing underneath the disguise. It was simply a matter of putting on the mask, pretending like he was amongst their ranks, something that he's been doing for the past couple of months. Pretending like he was with them, after sneaking within one of their base, annihilating one of them and stealing the clothing. He spent a few weeks watching and observing and learning most of the protocols and signals and signs, so that he wouldn't be caught right away. And he did his best for the past couple of months. And when the time finally showed itself, yes, he was the one that was selected to be within the crowd, To not draw the unwanted attention, he proceeded to wear this. However, his main goal was not to be stopped by either of them as he made his way to the Chunin. However, he remembered this girl, seen her at the bridge. He saw that she was about to die. He saw the look on her face, defenseless, unable to protect herself. As his mind ran back to many thoughts, not every single human was awful. So he annihilated the person. Seeing what he did, Mito saw the lightning, remembering what she saw on the bridge before the fighting had truly kicked off. Could it be? She said, racing towards where he was. Might Guy, mistaking what Shadow was doing for attacking Sakura, leaped in. Naruto raised his hand as Guy's fist slammed against it. Guy was rather surprised so far. These ninjas weren't putting up that much of a threat to easily block his blow like that. Naruto grabbed his hand and pulled him in and tried to knee him in the gut, but Guy knocked Naruto away and flipped, before twisting and flipping back and swinging his kick. Naruto blocked it with both of his arms. He gripped into Guy's leg, pulling him forward as Guy brought his arm as a shield, but Naruto's fist sent him through a couple of chairs as he crashed down hard over to the other side. Kushina, despite the lack of the use of her chakra, was still protecting the people around her. The innocent, as she found herself face to face with 3 sound shinobis. However, Kakashi Hatake descended upon them and annihilate each one of them. She had to get to safety. In the past, this wouldn't be a problem, but now, she lacked the necessity to face them off. That was until she heard Mito shouted out across the distance despite the sound, worrying that her daughter was in danger. But as she turned her gaze, she saw Mito focusing towards something else. Confused until Shadow proceeded to grab the clothing that he was wearing and rip it off, revealing himself as his true clothing was underneath. It was a good thing that his body fluctuated certain kinds of temperature. He would have been extremely hot, but he was fine, able to survive in the most horrendous and horrendous environments. As his red hair with his dark highlights spiked out, his face viewed to the world, the mark that was on his neck also there to view, Sakura realized who just saved her. Guy got to his feet, but Naruto teleported away, crossing the distance by blinking in and out like he was some sort of ghost. Kushina watched as he blinked by her, appearing a few feet. Before she could say a word or make a move, he was gone. The next moment, Kakashi jumped in front of her and deflected 3 kunais. He knew that he was going to try to fight a losing battle, as she was going to be extremely stubborn now. So he grabbed her. Yes, and jumped off, moving away to get her out of danger. They will handle Shadow. She need to get to safety. As Mito was stopped by Kakashi after putting Kushina somewhere safe, he told her that she needed to go after Sasuke, and she couldn't go alone. As she proceeded to watch him summon his small little puppy, it would help them track Sasuke and where he was going. Meanwhile, racing across the rooftops, arriving the moment he landed down. The Anvus that were there draw their weapons on him, believing him to be a threat. He paid them no mind though, as he observed the dome. The next moment he was gone, as he was now inside. What the hell? The members of the Sound 4 said to themselves as he simply bypassed their little trap and entered inside. Meanwhile, Minato was engaging with the first and the second as well. A brutal clash between them all. These were the former Hokages. Granted, they might not be at 100%, but their force was still extremely great. But Minato was not hailed as one of the strongest Hokages for no reason. The first Hokage went through hand sign and created a goddamn forest, trying to swallow Minato, but his speed was on a different level. He slashed and ripped the trees to sunders, making his way through the bunches. Orochimaru engaged his Kusanagi blade inches away from Minato's throat. However, the next moment Minato was gone. Orochimaru then noticed a kunai that was dropping. Yes, right beside him. Fearing the worst as he could not move, the Hokages could not save him in time. However, Minato's hand was grabbed. The Rasengan that he was about to plunge into Orochimaru's back was stopped. As their eyes met, red and black, gazing into blue. "He's mine," said Naruto, throwing Minato away. Minato Rasengan slammed against the barrier, disrupting the Rasengan. The barrier was immensely powerful. The amount of strength that Naruto used to simply throw him like that, as the first and second descended upon Minato once again. Orochimaru turned. "I suppose I should be thanking you," he said. However, you could see that he was worried. Don't get him wrong, Orochimaru was a very powerful person. However, the gems were gone. Yes, the gems that he found, that was so-called left on this planet by a being that did not even reside here. He realized at an earlier time that after the experiments with the gems, removing the gems from the location would cause catastrophic destruction. Yes, they were literally destroying everything. When he tried to get rid of the emeralds and move them from that place to get them somewhere else, it seems like a link had been formed between the children and the emeralds. At the time, the Sannin had no idea which one of them the link was with. There was still around 10 or so left, and there was no way of testing which one of them it was. All of his previous testing was inconclusive, but now it seems like he found the one. However, when the attack happened when he wasn't there, the gems were there, and when he did return, they were gone. The Sannin feared that this boy had them in his possession. The power that was emitting from those things, because of the link they share with this boy, was enough to eradicate him and this entire village, and he knew that. However, inspecting said child, Orochimaru saw nothing. But the last time they fought, Naruto's abilities caught him off guard. He sacrificed a few of his own people to escape away from that, as he had no idea just how much Naruto had grown. And after the years that passed, his strength must have grown significantly. And given his vast teleportation ability, Orochimaru having no idea what the limitation was, it was something he had to be extremely careful about. As Naruto stood there, looking at the man, "What now? You kept on running for the entire years that I tracked you for, but now you're trapped. And even if these walls were able to fall, I won't let you leave." Orochimaru chuckled. "And what makes you believe I was running away from you? Perhaps I simply found you not to be much of a challenge to waste my time. If that was the case, you wouldn't have run away when I saw you, when I was about to rip you apart." The Sannin chuckled. "You think you can beat me? I made you what you are." I created you. If anything, you should be thanking me for the gifts I've bestowed upon you. Thanking? Is that what just come out of your mouth? I should be thanking you. You put me through hell. You tortured us. You slaughtered all of them. You were the one. You were the reason why they all died. You are the reason why Maria is dead. Who is Maria? Orochimaru said. Naruto took a step back, his eyes wide, his mind simply blank and calm at the same time. Rage, like he never felt before. Naruto has been so angry for the past couple of years. He's been conflicted with so much rage and anger. But now, standing face to face with a man that created his goal, pushed him down this path, and he had the gall to not even know the reason why he was hunting him. Naruto had said it to him the last time they saw one another, and the Sannin seemed to have forgotten why he was continuously trying to claim his life. Not for the experiments, even though that was in it, but for her death. The next moment, Naruto power surged. Everything that wasn't supposed to happen started to happen. It was the chaos energy. It started to leak from Naruto's body like a faucet. A red aura gathered around Naruto as he ripped the limiters off his hand. He dropped them down to the ground as they hit like they were so heavy, cracking the tile stuck in where they were, releasing a monstrous shout as Naruto dig deep within himself, forcing that power out. His red and black aura surrounded him, red lightning cackling around it. Today is the day that you die, said Naruto. As he dashed forward, Orochimaru spitting his blade and dashing forward as well. The Sannin swing his blade. Naruto pulled his blade. They clashed and the entire roof was ripped asunder. Orochimaru was launched. The energy that was coursing through Naruto was able to travel through his weapon. Orochimaru slammed viciously inside of his own barrier. The thing trembled from the force. The Sannin could feel the many broken bones that he received from simply one clash alone. Every single step that Naruto took caused the building to shake. The Sound 4 had to go extra to make sure the barrier did not destabilize. It was the power that was relinquishing itself from Naruto and flaring around him. The chaos power started to spiral. Random volts of electricity and blasts started to crash all over the place. The second Hokage got hit by one of them, and it ripped his arm clean off. The problem was, his arm was not regenerating. Orochimaru noticed that, and the man was terrified. Immediately getting to his feet, Orochimaru had felt the pain of one of Naruto's attacks in the past, which delayed his regeneration, but now, how was he able to stop the regeneration of the reanimations? That wasn't supposed to be possible. He couldn't destroy them. No, that's not possible, he thought. However, Naruto slammed his blade down and held both of his hands out. So many chaotic spears formed. He started to launch them at Orochimaru. The Sannin dashed, his lower half turning into a snake as he moved, trying to evade them all. However, those that slammed into the barrier literally burst through it, shocking the Sound 4. They had to work extra time to repair it. Naruto dashed in front of Orochimaru, surpassing his speed as he kicked him in the face. followed by a brutal combo that sent the Sanin into the tiles. Orochimaru jumped away. In mid-air he spat snakes. Naruto reached as his blade was yanked back towards him as he sliced them to sunders. Naruto teleported behind Orochimaru as the Sanin turned. Naruto was now behind him. His blade was left there though. Orochimaru elongated his neck, trying to cover both bases, but the blade ripped through the Sanin, tearing through his arm. As Naruto grabbed it and slashed Orochimaru in half, he immediately jumped out of his own mouth, flipping and landing, only for Naruto to grip him by the throat. His speed and teleportation, not to mention Naruto was literally affecting space, slowing down Orochimaru's space around him. He lifted him off the ground and crushed him into the earth. He then picked him up and kicked him. Boom! He slammed into the barrier. Naruto didn't just want to kill him. He wanted to pick him apart. He wanted to make him suffer. Above them, a dark cloud started to gather as Naruto's rage started to get the better of him. The chaotic emeralds that Orochimaru found was stated not to be from this world. As the information about them was so discreet, the Sanin spent years searching, and when he found them he was overjoyed. But it wasn't something that he could touch. And they were simply gone again from the world, but in actuality they weren't. As Naruto was fuming with so much rage, his anger getting the better of him. Perhaps it wasn't his doing, subconsciously. Slowly but surely, strange items started to form out of Naruto's body. Minato, who was taking on the two previous Hokages, having a much easier time now, as two of Naruto's attacks had hit. The first Hokage, removing one of his arms and legs, and they were not regenerating. It seems like the process had simply ceased right there. However, what he was looking at was the strange diamonds, emeralds that were leaving Naruto's body. There was blue, green, red, purple, yellow, light blue, and white as well. As they started to swirl behind him, Naruto was not doing this, subconsciously probably, but it was his anger. The next moment, they rushed back into him. As they seemed to activate, they merged with him. The emeralds weren't destroyed, no they weren't. In his anger at the time, they had fused with Naruto, being inside of him. And for the first time, unifying at once, Naruto's power exploded outwards. However, great changes were afoot. Orochimaru stood where he was, baffled by what he was looking at. When the light died down, his once blood-red hair was now gold. It was spiking upwards. His body was surrounded by a golden aura. His eyes had taken a unique shape. His eyes had every single emerald color in it, in a circular pattern. His whole body was radiating with so much force, so much power. The barrier immediately collapsed in on itself as Naruto was warping space and time, of course. Orochimaru took a step back as Naruto was looking at his hands. The Sanin tried to flee away as he turned, but Naruto was directly in front of his face. Their eyes gazing towards one another, and all he saw was his own death, reflecting back at him as Naruto was flying, gazing deep into his eyes. "I told you, you're not leaving," he said. But guys, be and subscribe right here. If you want to see next person do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, don't forget to go ahead and check out the other channels and enjoy the other what ifs. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.